I was sitting across from a journalist in my corner office overlooking the city, 34 years old, CEO of a nonprofit that's helped over 10,000 foster kids. And she asked me the question I've been avoiding for 25 years. What inspired you to dedicate your life to helping foster children? And I looked at her, looked at the recorder on the table, and I decided it was finally time to tell the truth. The whole truth about the night my parents looked at their 9-year-old daughter and said, "You be not our problem anymore." About how they sent me into the system and never looked back. About how I spent 2 decades building a life from nothing while they pretended I'd never existed. And about how today, finally, I'm speaking. Not for revenge, but because there are thousands of kids out there right now hearing those same words and they need to know they can survive this. Let me take you back to the beginning, to who I was before that night. My name is Sarah. I was born to parents who were too young and too poor to want a baby. My mom was 17 when she got pregnant. My dad was 18. They got married. Because that's what you did. But they never wanted me. I know that now. I think I knew it then too in the way kids just know things. I was a difficult child, at least that's what they always said. I couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, couldn't stop asking questions. What I know now is that I had ADHD and anxiety and needed help, but what they saw was a problem that made their already hard life harder. They had my sister when I was 6, Emily, and she was everything I wasn't: quiet, easy, sweet. She slept through the night and smiled at strangers and never caused trouble. And from the moment she was born, I could feel them comparing us, could feel them wishing I was more like her, could see the relief on their faces when they were with her and the exhaustion when they dealt with me. By the time I was 9, our family was barely holding together. My dad worked 2 jobs and was never home. My mom was overwhelmed with 2 kids and no money. And I was the scapegoat for everything wrong in their lives. If they couldn't pay rent, it was because I needed school supplies. If they were tired, it was because I'd had a meltdown. If they were unhappy, it was because raising me was so hard. Everything was my fault. The breaking point came in November. I remember because it was right before Thanksgiving. I'd gotten in trouble at school again. This time for talking in class and not finishing my work. The teacher called my parents and said I needed to be evaluated, that my behavior wasn't normal, that I might need special education services. And when my parents got that call, something snapped. That night, my mom sat me down at the kitchen table, my dad standing behind her, and she said words I can still hear perfectly 25 years later. "Sarah, we've tried everything. We've done everything we can, but you're too much for us. We can't help you. You need more than we can give. You're not our problem anymore." I was 9 years old and my mother just told me I wasn't her problem. I asked what that meant, where I was going, and my dad said, "We've contacted social services. You're going into foster care. There are people who are trained to deal with kids like you. It's better for everyone." Kids like me, like I was some kind of defective product being returned. I looked at my little sister sitting on the couch watching TV, oblivious, and I asked, "Is Emily going too?" And my mom actually looked offended. "Of course not. Emily's fine. This is about you. Just me." I was the problem that needed to be removed so their family could be happy. I started crying, begging, promising I'd be better. I'd be quiet. I wouldn't cause trouble. I'd be perfect, just please don't send me away. And my dad said, "We've made our decision. You're leaving tomorrow. Go pack your things." I packed that night, 9 years old, putting my clothes and stuffed animals into a suitcase, hearing my parents in the next room not comforting each other about the hard decision they'd made, but planning Thanksgiving, talking about what to cook, what to buy. Emily as an early Christmas present, now that they'd have more money, celebrating my removal like it was a solution, not a tragedy. The social worker came the next morning, a tired woman with too many cases who'd clearly seen this before. Parents giving up on difficult kids. She took me to my first foster home, a couple in their 50s who had 3 other foster kids. And I remember looking back at my house as we drove away, my mom holding Emily on the porch. Not crying, not waving. Just watching me go like she was watching the trash get picked up. That first foster home lasted 4 months, then I moved to another, then another over the next 9 years. I lived in 11 different homes. Some were okay people who tried their best, some were terrible people who just wanted the checks. None of them wanted to adopt me because I was difficult, because I had behavioral issues, because I was too old, too damaged, too much work, the same reasons my parents had given up on me. I spent birthdays alone, Christmases watching other kids get visits from their families, while nobody came for me. I went to 6 different schools, never staying long enough to make real friends, never feeling like I belonged anywhere. I was the foster kid, the problem child, the one nobody wanted. and I believed it. Believed I was fundamentally unlovable. Believed there was something wrong with me that made me impossible to keep. Meanwhile, I found out through social media years later that my parents were living a nice life. They'd had another baby when I was 13. A boy this time moved to a better neighborhood posted happy family photos with their 3 kids, Emily and the 2 younger ones who came after me. I looked at those photos and I didn't exist in them. I'd been erased, edited out of the family story like I was a mistake they'd corrected. I aged out of foster care at 18, got $500 and a garbage bag of belongings and a good luck. I was homeless for 3 months, slept in shelters, worked at McDonald's, saved every penny until I could afford a room in a boarding house. Enrolled in community college using financial aid. Studied social work because I wanted to understand what had happened to me. Wanted to help other kids like me, the ones nobody wanted. College was hard. I worked full-time, went to school full-time, lived on ramen and determination. But I graduated with a 3.8 GPA, got into a state university for my bachelor's, then got a full scholarship for my master's in social work. By 26, I was a licensed social worker specializing in foster care, and I was good at it. Really good, because I understood these kids. I'd lived their lives, felt their pain, knew their fear of abandonment, and their desperate need to be wanted. I worked in the system for 3 years and watched it fail kids over and over. Watched children get bounced between homes. Watched teenagers age out with nothing. Watched families give up on difficult kids the way mine had given up on me, and I decided I could do better. So at 29 I started my own nonprofit, Safe Harbor, dedicated to helping foster kids with intensive support, therapy, education assistance, job training, housing support, everything I wish I'd had. Starting the nonprofit was brutal. I worked 100-hour weeks, maxed out credit cards, lived in a studio apartment with donated furniture, but we helped our first kid at 30. A 15-year-old girl who'd been in 18 foster homes and was about to age out. We got her therapy, helped her finish high school, got her into college, and when she graduated she told me I'd saved her life. That she'd been planning to kill herself before she found us, and I knew this was my purpose. This was what surviving had been for. 5 years later, Safe Harbor has helped over 10,000 kids. We have a $20 million annual budget, partnerships with schools and businesses. We've gotten national recognition. I've been on news programs and podcasts talking about foster care reform. And through all of it, I've never told my story, never mentioned that I was one of those kids. Never said that I know this system from the inside because my parents threw me away. Until today, until this interview, because yesterday I got a letter forwarded to my office from my mother, first contact in 25 years. She'd seen me on the news, apparently recognized me. The letter said she was proud of what I'd built, that she'd always known I'd do something special. That she wanted to reconnect, to explain what had happened, to be part of my life again. And reading that letter, I felt nothing except clarity. Clarity that it was time to speak, time to tell the truth, time to stop protecting people who didn't protect me. So I told the journalist everything about being 9 years old and hearing "you're not our problem," about 11 foster homes in 9 years, about aging out alone, about building myself from nothing while my parents built a family without me, about dedicating my life to making sure other kids don't suffer the way I did. And when I finished, she had tears running down her face and she said, "This is going to help so many people. So many kids who think they unlovable because their parents gave up on them need to hear that you survived, that you thrived." The article, published 2 weeks ago, went viral immediately. Millions of people read my story. The media wanted interviews. Other foster care organizations reached out. But the most important responses were from the kids. Hundreds of messages from teenagers in foster care saying, "Thank you for sharing your story. I thought I was alone. I thought something was wrong with me. Now I know I can survive this." My parents tried to reach out again after the article. My mom called my office. My dad sent emails. They wanted to explain, to defend themselves, to tell their side. I didn't respond because there's nothing they can say that matters. They made their choice when I was 9. I'm making mine now at 34. My sister Emily reached out too. She'd had no idea I existed until she saw the article. Our parents never told her about me, never mentioned. She had an older sister. She was devastated, wanted to meet, wanted to know me, and I agreed because she was a child too when this happened. She didn't choose to be kept while I was thrown away. We met for coffee last week, and she cried and said she was sorry, that if she'd known she would have fought for me, would have made them bring me back, and I believed her. We're building a relationship. Slowly, carefully, the only family member I have interest in knowing. People ask if I forgive my parents, if I'm angry, if I want revenge, and the truth is, I don't feel much about them. Anymore, they're just two people who proved that biology doesn't make you a parent. Love and commitment they gave birth to me, but they never parented me. They couldn't handle a difficult child, so they disposed of me, and that says everything about them and nothing about my worth. If you enjoyed my story, please like and subscribe and share this with anyone who's survived abandonment, who was thrown away by the people who were supposed to love them, because here's the truth. Being unwanted by your parents doesn't mean you're unlovable, it means they were incapable of love. My parents said I wasn't their problem when I was 9 today. I finally speak not for them, but for every foster kid out there who needs to hear that you can survive this, you can build a beautiful life from the ruins of abandonment. You are not the problem, you never were, they were.